Welcome to the Puddlegum podcast. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm talking to Zach and Will from Stray Fossa. How you guys doing?
Good, thanks, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
doing well. Thanks again.
Awesome. So you guys released a new single recently titled "How Come," and I believe it's from you guys have an album coming out on April 9th, correct?
Yeah, that's right. It's our first album, so it's kind of a debut for us, and we're excited about it.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Yeah, I really love the new single and the video, and you guys are releasing the album on Nice Guys.
Yep. Well, the album is going to be independently released.
Okay.
The single was through Nice Guys. Yeah, and we were happy that they were willing to jump on board that one. But the album, the album will be independently released.
Cool. Yeah, I would love to dive into the recording of How Come. Yeah, you guys tracked this in your attic studio, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We had the full setup in-house in Charlottesville, and so we do all the engineering, recording, production, all up there. So it's definitely all, it's an in-house production for sure.
Cool. When did you guys set the studio up?
Yeah, we set the studio up pretty much when we first moved into this house. We were trying to find a house that had, a space that was like big enough to set up some equipment, like a drum set and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then also a space that wasn't, sharing walls with any light sleepers. But this was like back in early 2019 that we set up this studio just near downtown Charlottesville area, and we really love the house. I'm still living here, and hoping to kind of keep this as like our main sort of creative space for a while. It's been very productive for us over the last year and a half.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, do you guys find that the downside of recording in your own studio is sometimes it's hard to decide that you're done. The upside is you can take your time, and it's not costing you. How do you guys find that balance? I mean, is it hard for you guys to decide, this is what we want, or do you just keep pushing forward and
Yeah, that's a good question. It's definitely about trying to find the balance. When the living space is also the writing space and also the recording space. Life and the creative side of things kind of get mixed together a lot. Not to mention that it can be loud in the house at all times. So, it was about trying to find that balance and figuring out, because we could create all the time, sort of putting limits on things and setting deadlines, can be helpful, so we don't get carried away in the studio, I think.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, deadlines are really, really critical, I think, for recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, how long do you guys spend on that single?
Good question. Thinking back, that single came together really quickly. It was originally a demo that Nick had built in his room, and then he took it to the band. And like a lot of songs that we work on will start as demos, kind of bedroom projects, and then we'll kind of hash them out live. Like in the studio, we'll kind of jump on our respective instruments and we'll just play them out. And then a lot of sort of the fine tuning of structure and arrangement comes from those sessions. And that was a song that I think we wanted to make sure that sort of the template that we used in terms of recording it was a live take. When I record drums, I like to capture a lot of the live performance in there from the beginning. So we kind of start with just a live performance as for the song in general. And that took probably like a week. I think maybe a little longer. I think we tried to get a performance down that we were all happy with. And at that point, once we all knew the lines, we just tracked it and then got the drums together. And I think the rest of it came together probably, I don't know, like another week or two. It was pretty quick. I think that one was pretty quick.
That's great. So when you record live, are you mainly focusing on just getting the right drum take so that you can add the Yeah.
Yeah, just mostly a drum take, and then we'll kind of build it up. Kind of using elements from the original demo, which I love to do. I love trying to keep in a lot of those, like, I think a lot of the character in a song, you know, is there from the beginning. So it's kind of like on principle, I think we try to stick close to those projects and not stray too far. But obviously when you're playing out songs, they take on different life. So it's fun to blend the two. And that song was definitely an example of that.
Yeah. One thing that I love about, I love the song as a whole. And yeah, I love the recording process. So the one thing that I really love about the song is the snare. For me, the snare really elevates the song for me. So I'd love to hear like how you guys tracked, like what mics do you use? You know, how do you approach the snare? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I love a good snare drum. It's funny, all of our snare sounds come from one drum. It's like a Ludwig acrylite that I've had forever, you know, it's like the standard. And it's amazing like how many different textures you can get out of that one drum. And so, you know, I think I've always had a dream of collecting snare drums, but that's just impossible when you have a limited budget. So I have the one drum and use like different forms of muffling to get different energies out of it. So different songs will have either like more of an open, bright sound and like tuning it differently. It's fun to see what you can get out of that one. But yeah, the drum is mic'd up. I use like all SM57s. I got 57 on the top and then a 57 on the bottom for the actual snare resonance. And then I just blend those two and I've got an overhead for the kit and combine a lot of the snare comes from those three mics. The overhead I think is just like a PG81, like one of those cheap, cheaper versions, like the cheaper version of the SM81. That I've had since I was like 14, I think. Big battery power, cannon power. And you know, a lot of that's kind of it. And you know, like, got a kick drum mic, but a lot of it also comes down to the mixing, and like I think a lot of the sound of that snare probably for that song comes from mixing and beefing it up. I always take samples from the session. Like I try to avoid sticking with like, in the past I used to sort of like stick with, like take one sample that I use for everything and use that to blend in to the, you know, to the mix. But I stopped doing that and I like to sort of now build sample kits from the sessions, just to give the session drum sound its sort of unique flavor. So that's an example of like, after I re-recorded the drum take for that, I then sort of stuck around the studio and sampled the drums, and then had those on hand to beef it up, you know. Yeah. And then the sound is kind of a combination of the two.
Okay, so you take several snare hits that you like, and then you replace the others, correct?
Yeah, I usually blend them. I don't remember if in that project I actually replaced everything, because I think a lot of I like to keep a lot of the nuance in like the performance, but sometimes it's just ultimately you can't tell. It depends on the mix, but usually I'll blend the two, but sometimes I'll replace them for sure.
That makes sense. Yeah, what I noticed. So tell me if I'm wrong. What I noticed in during the first verse, it almost sounds like the snare. The bottom mic is hitting almost right before the top mic. Is that correct? Or is there like you have a delay on the top mic during that first verse?
Oh man, that's the like careful listening. I couldn't even answer that for you. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're hearing that, it's probably just random. Yeah, I don't know. So you're saying you're hearing that the bottom is like delayed from the top?
Well, it almost sounds like actually the top is delayed from the bottom.
Right,
yeah, kind of yeah.
Interesting. I'll listen to that.
But once the pre-chorus comes, they're together. And I almost hear like a slap back, but that might be from the overhead.
Interesting. Or it might also be a delay.
Yeah.
Snare.
That makes sense. I'm just curious. That's what I was hearing. But how'd you get the organ sound?
The organs. Oh, you mean Zach? Do you remember who recorded that? Oh.
Yeah. Are you talking about the kind of the synthy solo in the middle, or the synth in general that layers throughout?
In the middle. I think it comes in. I marked down at 3 minutes, 14 seconds.
Yeah. It kind of like a sort of a solo section.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually Nick. He was the creative force behind that. And he just programmed the sound and went to town, just kind of building a solo. And I actually wasn't a part of I wasn't up there in the studio when he was doing it. And I just remember it just being in the project one day. And we all learned to love it, and it really works, I think.
Yeah, I think that's an example. I think that was an example of something that was kept over from the original demo. The Nick had mixed. That I think he always had that, and it was always a scratch filler part that was, I think, supposed to be earlier in the song, but then we just made it more of like just before that last chorus comes in. So that was something we kept. I think also like maybe the programming, all the processing, was a lot of it was also kept. I don't know if you just used something like Logic, like sampler instrument, or if we have to record that live. We use a lot of both, so it kind of all blends. But usually we usually will take, like for that one, I'm pretty sure we probably put a lot of delay on it and a lot of tape, simulation to give it more warmth.
That was definitely one of the more controversial parts of the song and recording process was trying to figure out if we liked that or not.
No, I love it. I think it's a great touch. Yeah. At the bass, what's the bass setup, Zach? It has such a rounded sound, and it cuts through the mix in a really nice way. So what is your?
Yeah, so a lot of that has to do with conversations that Will and I both had. So coming into this project, we'd all done a fair amount of recording, but I had really played live a lot, and so I kind of had to relearn bass for the studio in a sense. And Will and I have kind of troubleshooted and workshopped how to best record bass, and really we just do straight to the DI. I usually run through a Fender Mustang, and I use flat wounds, and I found the pick that works best for me and a healthy amount of palm muting to get kind of the hollow sound that you're talking about. And then Will does a lot of magic in the box. We usually add a bit of saturation in chorus and kind of beef it up and kind of cut through it a little bit. Yeah. The chorus was one of my favorite effects to play around with live, and so a lot of the songs that we've recorded as Stray Fossa were played live first, and kind of workshopped that way. And so I always like being able to take some of that, the live effects and put it in a recording.
Is that a chorus pedal that you're using?
So I use the pedal live, but we use just plugins in Logic when we're in the studio. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it sounds great. I also like the vocal approach. From what I'm hearing during the verse, it sounds like it's tripled, like with chorus on it, and then it's more doubled in the verse, you kind of split it left and right. Yeah, I'm curious how you guys, how you approach the vocals, layering them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we've had a lot, like talking about how we want to do vocals, and I think the layering has become sort of our go-to. I think for like a couple of reasons. I think primarily because we like the sound of it, and for instance, I think in those verses it's a double of Nick, then I have a harmony, which makes it probably sound like a triple.
Okay.
And then the whole song is a double of Nick for the choruses as well. And then Zach has harmony to come in for the choruses, and I think those are double as well. And then Nick has another harmony or something. So like at some point there probably are 6 tracks up to the chorus. But in general, I think we're like very open to vocal treatment and production, and we've always tried to figure out what makes the most sense. And initially we released songs with just a single vocal, and then we realized that we weren't feeling that approach yet. And I think at some point we'd like to be able to be more open about vocals, and when, individuals are more confident about performing and can find something the way that they like to sing into into a certain effect or something that they feel good about. But right now I think the layered approach, we use it a lot because it has a nice kind of soft feeling that we like to put on top of the kind of music that we've been making. It's just an interesting combination.
Yeah, it sounds great. I love the way you're mixing it. The different layers. Are you adding chorus? Is there tremolo in the chorus?
Good question. There's definitely chorus. There's definitely a heavy amount of chorus on, like, both of the doubles for Nick, and probably all around too. I think Nick actually was the one that first kind of rough mixed that in. I remember walking up to the studio and usually I'll go up there after, someone recorded their vocal take, and then I'll do a lot of the mixing, but just sort of fit it in there. But Nick had already sort of placed it really nicely, and I was like, this is great. Like I can don't have to do any of the bulk work. And so he had it like super affected. If you turn up those vocals during any time in the song or isolate them, they're super affected. Like a lot of chorus, like maxed out chorus you can get, and like a lot of tape delay probably. And then when you kind of put them back in the mix, I think a lot of that gets kind of hides, but what's left is this really nice kind of creamy texture that's sort of the perception of all that, Yeah. It's interesting how these things are really dependent on sort of context in the mix. But I remember when Nick had it super loud, I was like, oh, we can't, this is like, it's like, this is too much. But then, like, drop it 8-10 dB, it's like great, Yeah.
It sounds really nice. I love what he's doing. Does Nick typically mix the music, or do you all have a hand on that?
I do most of the mixing. I think we all have a say in how we want the mix to kind of ultimately end up. But I think I think in terms of like the time investment, I guess I do a lot of that work. And, running out the car too in the last stages and feeling it out in different settings. I've always loved doing that, so I just kind of like naturally just do it. So it's, I think if you ask Nick, he'll say that he hates that. Like, he absolutely hates the nitty gritty of like tweaking automation endlessly. He just doesn't run into it. So
I think, sorry. I was going to say, Nick and I are both pretty lucky because I think both of us hate all that nitty gritty work. And so it's really great to have Will just take the reins, and he's really just done wonders with production on these tracks.
Yeah, I really love the song, and as well as the song you released near the end of 2020 for what it was. Production is just really nice. Can't wait to hear the LP. Is this a kind of a taste of what to expect?
Yeah, I think so. We've got it's 3 more singles, and then the album drops, and so I think that we're really happy with how these songs work as a whole. So this is definitely a taste, kind of the first taste of the album, and we're hoping people are enjoying it and are getting excited with us for the debut.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. When will be the next single?
We've got the second one coming out on the 16th. Is that right? 16th? Mm-hmm. 10 days? Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. And what's the title of that song?
That one's called Orange Days.
Yeah, we're excited about the next single. We've got a video dropping soon after as well that we're pretty excited about too. That really works well with the track, and so we're excited to keep moving along with this release process. It's been good so far.
Well, I think it'll be received really well. What are your favorite guitar pedals?
Oh man, I think that's a question for Nick, or is that if you might know some of the stuff he's really into?
Yeah, I know that he's really early on really enjoyed playing around with the Line 6. I think it's the DL4 delay. He was really having a lot of fun with that live. Being only 3 people in the band. We wanted to, really fill the mix, fill the stage, and that was a great way to do it. Was just this really lush guitar sound that I think often translates into the studio as well. But I know that at least live we use a whole lot of the DL4 delay on Nick's guitar.
And when he tracks guitar, does he track direct, or are you guys micing his amp?
Yeah, we usually mic his amp, and occasionally we'll sort of blend that with a DI signal. Mm-hmm. It kind of just depends on what the mix calls for in that section. But pretty often that we'll blend the two. If it's a lead part, it's more often than not DI signal. But if it's more of like a textured part or more of like a wash, or like a strum, just that kind of like space filling texture, it's almost always mic'd live.
Mm-hmm. It sounds really nice. It's got a great guitar tone. What amp is he using?
He's got a Vox that we mic up. I don't know what's specific. Jack, do you know what the model make on that? It's just like a big Vox amp.
I don't know. Yeah, Nick's the one to answer the question.
Yeah.
What are your musical influences right now?
That's a good question. We always kind of chat about the fact that all 3 of us have really different influences, and often different tastes, which comes together to make kind of I think more of an interesting sound for the band. Mm-hmm. I listen to a whole lot of I've been listening to a whole lot of Billie Holiday, which
awesome.
is just really great and enjoyable for me. I'm not sure if it comes through in our music at all, but I always enjoy listening to her. And I also really am enjoying a band now called Yumi Zuma, and they're a bit closer to our genre, and I really love listening to their stuff as well. They had a couple of acoustic versions of some songs I really love, and they're crushing it right now. What about you, Will?
Oh, well, influences, I don't listen to a lot of music, honestly. Like, I haven't listened to a lot. Like, I'll get really into certain albums or specific songs. And, it's actually interesting. wasn't never a huge, like, fan of the sort of genre. Like, I don't know if you know that, like, the PC music out of London. They're doing a lot of like experimental avant-garde kind of pop production. I really love and I had discovered, I had listened to a lot of Sophie's stuff in the last year after discovering her work, and I was just like in admiration because it's just so meticulously crafted. Like the textures are so incredible. It's just tragic that she passed, but I really like listening to anything that just really captures my ear. Anything that Aaron Dresden produces, he's just brilliant.
Yeah.
He's been popping up a lot more often on, big pop releases. And so I think I grew up always drawn more to like the music behind it. Like a lot of Beach Boys, a lot of like Michael Jackson, anything by Talking Heads or David Byrne, like just anything that was just like very energetic and had a lot of just raw emotion. And then now I find myself listening less to music and more to just production. Yeah.
So when you're listening to something, you're listening to how it's mixed, how things come together.
Yeah, and it's kind of something that it's kind of frustrating too, because like I wish I miss just appreciating music for just like the emotion, and I can definitely still get into songs. Like I'll just get obsessed with specific songs or albums. Like Perfume Genius's album, I listened to that endlessly when it came out. Set My Heart on Fire is just so good, but the production also is so good. There's this one track on that specifically called Describe that is just so impressive to me in how they got all those textures working together, and the way it's mixed, it's so counterintuitive. And it's just the song itself is also just beautiful. So it's like, I love finding songs like that or albums like that that just do everything,
Well, we can talk about future plans. So you're releasing this in April, and hopefully, I would imagine, things begin to open up, by that point or soon after. Do you plan on touring, if things do open up?
Yeah, so, the hope is that it'll be safe to do so, and as near the future as can be, so, once it is safe and we're good to go, we'd love to get back on stage and out touring again on the album. And in the meantime, we're just going to try to get creative with music and video content and, use the internet to get our music out there as much as possible, since we can't play live right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some creativity, but every other musician in the world is dealing with the same struggles right now. So we're just going to have to get creative.
Yeah. Who handles your videos?
We kind of all do the videos together. The one that we put out recently for How Come, that was sort of a last minute effort. I think it was the night before Nick was flying out of country, and it was sort of the last chance to get some content. So we just came up with that idea randomly, probably around 5 p.m. honestly, and then we just did it. And it's supposed to be for a different song, and we realized, well, actually we should shift it to this first single. It might be a better fit. And then we got all the filming done for that in like probably a couple hours that night, because we also had to do some other live takes for different songs that we're releasing later. But then we sent all that footage to a friend in New York who's like a freelance film editor, and he's, funny enough, he's been sort of doing film work for us since we were kids. So we had a project when we were really young that he, it was like his first official film editing project. So I think he felt really grateful for us to launch his career as a film editor, and now he's doing it full time up in Brooklyn. But yeah, I think in general the films are sort of group efforts, and right now I think Zach probably is taking a lot of the responsibility to finish some of them, just because it's hard to in order to get everyone doing something, it's hard to kind of have to sort of delegate, otherwise nothing gets done, and it's it's a challenge.
I'm doing some of just like that nitty gritty editing work stuff, but I'd say definitely the films are a group effort from, a conceptual standpoint.
Yeah, that's cool. I really love that. I was going to ask you about your earlier days. You guys were playing together in high school. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's right. We're long time, Nick and Will are brothers, and Will and I met in kindergarten, so we've all just been longtime friends, and we started playing music when we were in high school together, just sort of, playing shows around our small hometown, and just having a lot of fun with it. And then when we went away to university, to college, we just kind of ended that and didn't play together for a long time during those years, and then came back together after that time and started a new, totally different project.
It kind of started when Nick and I started playing Led Zeppelin covers together. And we used to jam real heavy on like The Ocean and those songs just because they're just such great guitar drum songs. But then we got Zach to come on as our bass player, and then sort of had fun with covers for pretty much all throughout high school. And we wrote some of our own songs, and Nick helped. Nick was doing a lot of the songwriting at the time. So it's mostly for fun, and we played some. We passed occasionally as college kids playing, frat parties and fun, but it was a good time. And then we kind of dropped it, went off to college, and we didn't really collaborate on anything. A couple songs here and there. Nick had an EP that we put together, more of a folk Americana EP. But then when we came back together, it was really kind of out of cold. We started cold. We had no demos or anything that we were going to pursue. It was all the writing started when we moved in together back in sort of early 2018. And it's been, it was initially a pretty big challenge because it was when you stop your collaboration after a good while, 6 or 7 years or so, you have to relearn, I think, a lot of how you work together as a group and interpersonally. And I think a lot of that challenge was, especially came down to me and Nick with very different tastes and very different, I think, expectations for how the project should go or where it could go. And, over that year, we ironed a lot of that out to get on the same page. And I think where we came out in the spring of 2019 was the first time we felt like we were really all putting something in equally, to find something, just trying to find a good starting point for us to grow off of. But it took a while.
Well, I appreciate having you guys on the show. I love what you guys are doing, and I've really enjoyed talking with you guys. And I just want to, thank you for joining us on the Puddlegum podcast, and we'll definitely have you guys on again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I think it's been a joy to be on here, and we love sharing the page with some pure bands that we also follow and love listening to. So it's a cool space that you've created for sure.
Thank you. Can't wait for the LP to drop April 9th.
Cool, man. Thanks so much.
If you'd like to learn more about Puddlegum, visit us at Puddlegum.blog.